This is actually a secret feature of the game, but you can eat glass. Believe it or not, but it gives you all the buffs in the entire game all at once. Most people consider this item cheating, but I won't discourage you from trying it. Hello everyone and welcome to Sober Gaming, where we believe video games is the only addiction you will ever need. Today I'm bringing you 7 Days to Die Alpha 19 tips and tricks. I have done 30 tips and tricks on Alpha 17 already, and most of them apply to Alpha 19, so you'll see some footage from that video here as well. Please consider subscribing and join my streams on Monday and Wednesday at 6 p.m. PST, Friday 8 p.m. PST, and Saturday and Sunday 12 p.m. PST, where I discuss more useful tips and tricks with other players in the community and some random topics like what is your favorite superhero or what should they teach children at school nowadays. Tip number 1. Make sure you finish the tutorial quests. They give you 4 free skill points without increasing the game difficulty known as the game stage. Also, the last quest will lead you to the closest trader, which is always useful to know.
Your money is welcome here.
Tip number 2. Hunt all the Bambis and Pumbas, especially in the beginning of the game, to have plenty of food. Don't forget about crouching for extra sneak attack damage. Then smash their corpses with stone axe until you get a bone. Use that bone to make a shiv and finish skinning animal with ease. Tip number 3. Loot all the nests for feathers and eggs to have enough resources for arrows and the best food in early and mid game, bacon and eggs. Tip number 4. If you find a workbench that is not damaged, mark its location on your map so you can come back at level 20 and craft some iron tools. You will not be able to make a workbench yourself until you reach level 25. The best part about this strategy is that you don't need to come back to the workbench every time a tool breaks, because you can repair it yourself in your inventory. Tip number 5. When looting any building, be careful entering a new room. There might be zombies just around the corners, who insta-hit you when you walk in, sometimes even from both sides. Tip number 6. Having problems with vultures? You may waste quite a bit of ammo trying to hit them unless you're a Hanzo main. I suggest using 1 melee power attack and send them flying. Tip number 8. Make sure you finish chopping down a tree, hitting a rock, or digging a block of dirt because it will give you some extra resources upon completion. Tip number 8. Don't fight in small rooms or hallways. The bigger the area, the better your chances of surviving. It is way easier to kite all the zombies outside of the building. Tip number 9. Smash some doors or windows just before entering a building or a room to lure most of the zombies outside for an easier fight. Just remember, some sleepers still might be there, so be on the lookout. Tip number 10. Alpha 17 brought a lot of buffs and debuffs to 7 Days to Die. Because there are so many, I will not discuss them in here, but teach you how to understand them. So when you get one, you will be notified by a specific icon just above your stamina bar. To understand what each buff or debuff does, press tab, open a character menu, and you will see all current status effects on the right hand side of the screen. Select each to read what it does and how it affects your gameplay. Tip number 11. Make sure to take all the loot from all the containers. If you don't need something, just take it and drop it on the ground. This will help containers respawn the loot properly. If you leave something that you don't need in there, it will not respawn new items. The game will think you just used that space for storage. Tip number 12. A tip for beginners. If you haven't built a horde base yet, surviving your 7th day horde might be a challenge. I suggest climbing the roof of a concrete building and destroying a way in. During the blood moon, move around the roof to switch zombies' attention from a particular spot that might collapse soon. I also suggest to have at least 300 arrows and 2 to 3 bows to kill zombies. Tip number 13. Use your map to mark points of interest. Place markers for traders, specific shops for loot, military bases, friendly bases. Also, you can place a marker on a house that you just looted and give it a specific number, representing when the loot in that house will respawn. For example, you looted this house on day 5. Then you place a marker 10, so you know that on the 10th day you can loot this house again. The number of days for the loot to respawn depends on your world settings, so make sure you know what it is. Don't forget to share some of those markers with your friends. Tip number 14. If you are playing on a randomly generated map, open your map and find 00 coordinates. Every one of those maps has a city there known as the hub city. This will save you a lot of time wandering the wasteland for a city to build your base in. Tip number 15. You know what it is? No, this is not a walking horde. This is called walking XP farm. Killing zombies is the fastest way to level up, so make sure to put every single one of them out of its misery for some easy leveling up. Tip number 16.
Who's that Pokemon?
It's Mining Helmet! It is a very rare item that provides an infinite light source. Extremely useful for surviving underground and fighting hordes at night. But did you know that you can craft it? To make it, you will need 1 football helmet, 1 flashlight, 8 electrical parts, 5 duct tapes, and 4 scrap plastics. Also, you will need an advanced engineering perk to unlock the recipe for it. A small price to pay for such a legendary item. However, Alpha 17 is amazing and brought us a lot of mods, and one of those mods is a helmet light which can be installed in the most headwear and provide exactly the same feature as the mining helmet. Tip number 17. There are many tough enemies in 7 Days to Die, and most of them can cause you to bleed. Bleeding takes a huge portion of your health over time, therefore I suggest to have bandages on your belt at all times, so you can stop bleeding at any point. Tip number 18. To restore max health, use some of these meds. To restore max stamina, eat any food. Tip number 19. To make an infinite water source at your base, make a hole 2x2 and fill it with water using a metal bucket. Then grab all of your glass jars and fill them with water. Next, take the remaining water with your bucket and pour it back into the hole. Rinse and repeat when you need some water. Tip number 20. Some of us like to feel safe underground. Here's a tip for my fellow bedrock dwarves. To make a room underground, just dig a perimeter and then remove the top and bottom layers of the room. All the rock in the middle of the room will collapse, so you can start building your moria. Tip number 21. Mechanical parts are used in most late game recipes, so you'll need a lot of them. Here's a list of the best props that you can dismantle with your wrench to get them. Office chairs, file cabinets, cars, and shopping carts. There are some other props that you can dismantle as well, but these are the easiest in my opinion. Tip number 22. If you see a barricaded door, it usually takes quite a bit of time to break through. Try focusing on the wall beside it instead. Most of the walls in the houses are made of wood, so it is easier to break 2 wooden blocks than a metal door. Tip number 23. Did you know that you get exactly the same amount of materials if you scrap a used item or a brand new one? Durability does not affect how much materials you get for scrapping. So if you have some tools or weapons that you don't need and use them to its fullest already, just scrap them. Tip number 24. I have talked about hidden loot in cracked walls, but did I mention that some houses have secret stashes behind the paintings? So make sure you vandalize all the art in this world for some extra loot. Tip number 25. Don't have a nice even ground to start growing your farm? Place wood frames on the ground and pick them up to even it out. Tip number 27. Update on Alpha 17. You cannot build underground farms anymore. Each soil block needs a direct sunlight. Tip number 28. When you select a building piece, make sure to press R to check out advanced rotation options. These options give you a lot of flexibility on building. Tip number 29. If you still don't know how to equip arrows, select your bow and hold the R key to select arrow type. Works the same for crossbows and guns. Tip number 30. Sometimes the day before the blood moon will spawn a wandering dog horde. Be on the lookout because they're very dangerous. Have you ever noticed blue boxes and some bags stuck up inside construction areas? Well, the blue boxes hold cobblestone rocks and bags have a concrete mix. This is a really easy way to get concrete walls early game. Build a bicycle. This is one of the best things you can build in early game. You will have a few additional slots for looting since you can store some stuff in a bicycle and you can literally survive 7th day horde just by cycling around. Have you ever seen Minecraft speedrunner finish the game without blocks? No, 70 Die is no different. Make sure to have at least 10 to 12 wooden frames with you at all times. Should you find yourself inside a death trap, you can always test your luck by trying to pillar your way back up. You can also use those frames to block doorways and hallways where you anticipate a horde or even a few zombies. I have said it in my last video, but make sure to do the traders quests. They're awesome. They give you XP, dukes, and random rewards. You shouldn't loot any houses unless you have a quest in that building. There are 5 tiers, and the higher the tier, the more dukes and XP you will get. Also, each tier will give you a better reward at the end of the quest. You must complete 10 tier 1 quests to unlock tier 2, 10 tier 2 quests to unlock tier 3, and so on. Make sure to finish a quest before exiting the game, otherwise you will need to start over. Also, make sure not to leave the quest area, otherwise it will be failed. Death counts as leaving the quest area because you will be teleported back to your sleeping bag. A very simple trick to get bullets out of the gun is to just modify it. Once you click modify, it will get all the bullets out of the magazine into your inventory, and this trick works even when you don't have any mods to put on the gun. When you have a quest in the building that has any cars outside, I suggest dismantling all those cars with a wrench before starting the quest. You see, once you activate the quest outside of the building, all the blocks in that chunk will respawn, including cars. This way you can dismantle twice as many cars for all those juicy parts. You can call it an infinite gas trick. Earlier, I told you to hunt all Bambis and Pumbas in the early game for meat. Well, something to note about that tip is that boars will absolutely wreck you in the early game. They won't attack unless you attack them, and they can jump up 1 block and will kill you. Make sure to use the sneak attack on your first shot and stand on the 2 strong blocks while you make that boar a porcupine. If you didn't know, there are 2 bars under your belt. The green bar represents food and blue bar represents water. This is an easy way to see if you need to drink or eat. Also, the purple bar above your tool belt shows how close you are to leveling up. An easy tip for setting up your base: destroying 2 bottom ladders will let you jump onto the ladder but will prevent zombies to climb. This works for a few zombies, but it won't work on the horde since they often like to stack on each other and will be able to reach the ladder that way. Sometimes it might be a good idea to dismantle a low quality gun than actually selling it. You see, gun parts worth more than the actual low tier gun. Test it out. If you decide to play Vikings and settle in the snow, know that torches and campfires can keep you warm. However, campfire attracts screamers, so be aware of that. There are 3 ways to increase how much stuff you can carry. 1. Upgrade perk point called Pack Mule. 2. Put storage pockets in your armor. Or 3. Craft something that is called Storage Pocket that can be modified into your clothing. I suggest not to waste any perk points on Pack Mule and just go and modify your armor and clothing. Different glasses can give you different attribute points, which might help you get a perk that you can't unlock just yet. For example, nerdy glasses give you 1 intellect. If you got your intellect to level 9 and wear these glasses, you can unlock the advanced engineering perk that requires intellect at level 10 without actually spending 3 perk points to get level 10 intellect. Something to note, you won't be able to utilize that perk without wearing those glasses, but I think it's still worth it. Another tip concerning glasses, I suggest using nerdy glasses at all times because they give you 10% XP bonus. However, it might be a good idea to switch to lucky goggles when you're about to loot a bunch of chests at the end of the building because they give you points into looting, so you might find better gear or more ammo. A very basic tip for building, but you can hold R when you're holding a block to change its shape or rotations. I suggest playing around with it because there are a lot of different shapes and the best rotations are available when you select advanced rotations. Springs are a very valuable resource that you can no longer craft. I suggest to get your wrench and go bed shopping. Dismantling beds are the best way to get springs. You can get springs from cars as well, but beds are an easier target for those. Having issues with finding glue and duct tape? Well, you can actually craft both. You can craft glue at your campfire, but I suggest crafting it in the chemistry station because you will save yourself a ton of resources. Glue is crafted from 5 bones and 1 murky water, or 3 supercorns and murky water. Then you can combine glue with cloth to make a duct tape. Boom! Now you have the most useful resource in any survival situation. A weird tip, but still worth knowing. If you need brass, you can always melt your dukes in the forge. Not exactly sure of a situation where you would melt dukes instead of spending them, but you never know. There is a way to reset your skill points in the game. This changes the game completely because you can spend a bunch of points in intellect, build everything, and then spec back into guns or sneak. To reset all your skill points, you have to buy Grandpa's Elixir from the trader. It is not craftable, so make sure to save your dukes instead of melting them because it costs a ton. In case you get infected in early game, you can get honey by destroying tree stumps with an axe. There is only a chance you will get a jar of honey, so you might need to destroy a few of those, but it is better than dying. Also, if you have gone over 5% of infection, you can still use honey to cure it. You just need multiple jars. This is actually a secret feature of the game, but you can eat glass. Believe it or not, but it gives you all the buffs in the entire game all at once. Most people consider this item cheating, but I won't discourage you from trying it. Thank you everyone for watching. Please post your tips and tricks down below for new players, and of course make sure to subscribe and hit that bell to get notified when I stream. And finally, join my streams to get live tips and tricks and check out my base. I'm actually very proud of my base on my stream and would love for you to rate it. My schedule is in the description down below. I'll see you there. Bye bye.